All right, cue us up. Well, we're queued up. All right, we're ready to go, guys. It's not going to be very long. We don't have any new business. Good evening. It is July 9th. To the July Gathering Parks Board meeting, and just like kind of the weather, we are in the doldrums of the year, which is always a good thing. This tonight is going to be questions for Eric and a couple little updates on items. So, a couple things to my board. Lovely council lady understands this. This is not an editorial comment, this is just facts. Due to the party in control of the state of Indiana who believes in small government and local control, yet they dictated that certain protocols be followed. And that's why if you look at appointed officers to the Parks Board and any other gathering, who appointed, terms, yada, yada, yada. No politics involved here, of course. But the party of small government, well, so there you go. That's why we have the additional items at the bottom. So there you go. Like I said, they want local control until they can't control it. So there you go.
No regulations, by the way.
Pardon?
They have no regulations.
No,
They
no.
don't believe in regulations.
No,
Right?
no,
That's fine.
none,
That's great.
unless you go to Hungary and let somebody else pay for it. There you
It's their
go.
regulations.
Real quick here, I would entertain a motion. These are our minutes from June 11th. If you take a look there, I'd entertain, if there are no additions, subtractions, a motion to accept the minutes as submitted.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. One. I'll sign it. There we go. Like I said, this is going to be more of and out to the public. Are we on?
I believe so.
Okay, somebody yell at us. All right, real quick, Eric. Just an update. We had 4th of July, you screwed up in reverse again. I want to give a shout out to our department, but it's not a one department effort. Chief Bigsby, the street department folks, we pulled off another great 4th of July. So high five, and I drove through all the parks today. They look very good. Back in my day as a laborer for Mr. Martin, the bend and stoop period is never fun, as we fondly call it, bend and stoop. But I always like to see this on the record that City of Lawrence 4th of July is like a big pizza. It's cliche, I get it, with everything on it. If you walked our park, you see black, you see brown, you see white, you hear languages you didn't even hear the dialect before, and that's what makes us fun and unique. No issues other than lots of trash, and that's a good thing. Means people had a good time, and Eric, you screwed up again. You could do it all over, so congratulations. And for the record, also, our guys that did have to work overtime, they got overtime pay, so just a heads up on that. But they did like I said, they did a great job putting on another 4th. And as you know, we met with the mayor last week, and like mayors before, we can argue budgets, filling potholes, but if you screw up the 4th of July, you're behind. So good job on everybody's part there. So good job. Real quick, if you haven't had a chance, go by Lee Road Park. Our last big storm that blew in here, one of our big trees, as old as Methuselah, got roughed up, and Jimmy Hennigan went out there and removed the debris. It would have been, what, $4,000 or $5,000 to have it contracted out. And you do realize how big that park is. It's impressive. So I want to thank Jimmy Hennigan for his efforts last week in making sure, ladies and gentlemen, we'll hold up a minute. We have the lovely Ms., I got to put my eyes on that lovely Helen Taylor. Madam Mayor, good evening. Don't sneak off out at St. Ives, madam. Ms. Taylor, glad to see your bones.
Well, I'm late because I had a doctor's appointment.
Are you going to live?
Yeah,
All right, that's always good.
another day or two.
Yeah, yeah.
Just glad to see you. So,
You know, the paperwork and the otherwise there, it's just a pain in the butt. So good to see your bones. Couple things, like I said, I want to thank Jimmy Hennigan for what he did out there at Lee Road Park. You know, We're having discussions as to what we'd like to do with that park. It gets more and more uses coming down the pike. Couple things, Eric, I just want to, bring out to the public is A, where are we at with the Fall Creek Trail extension? I know we met last month, and there's, as I tell people, $1 million doesn't go very far to do anything. And originally, we were budgeted for right at $7 million to build that trail.
7.2, yeah.
$7.2 million doesn't go very far. We have do you know when it's next week, correct?
We have a meeting next week with members of the DNR to discuss the additional easement that we need. And I don't know if that meeting's been set yet.
Okay,
We did meet with Gretchen Meyer, the in-house
Right.
engineer with United, and I met with Brady Gibbons with DNR on Monday to discuss. He doesn't have an issue with it, but now we have to sit down with the people from the land acquisition. And, so we're trying to set a meeting with them.
and it is an extensive project, but the goal is, it does look like we can get started on some shovels in the ground type of activity before the year's out. Still looking at approximately 18 months for building. Like I said, the getting of this grant was fascinating, the process, the writing of it. Now you sit in on these engineering gathering meetings. It is interesting how we're going to get from point A to point B and building. Forget the environmentals, but just kind of the man-made over the years problems that have been created that are going to have to be overcome to make this reality. Going to try and make it happen regardless over the next, like I said, 18 months. Eric, it's summer. I always ask this about this time of the year. Vandalism, break-ins, are we?
We've had some graffiti at Veterans Park on the playground equipment primarily, and Play Park on
Got it.
Oak Landing Road. We've gotten the material and cleaned it off. They were going out today to do Veterans Park. They did Play Park last week, but we ran out of materials, but they went out to do that today.
Okay.
So
Real quick, when does the budget process for you begin? I know that starts with conversation with the executive branch, and then eventually you must chat with the legislative branch. What's kind of the timeline?
budget preparation documents are due back from department heads next Monday, the 14th. Dina and I started working on those last week, and we will send those up by close of day on Monday. And then on the 21st, the proposed budgets are due from the departments, so the entire budget is due. And then they will have individual meetings with the mayor and the controller and department heads starting on the 28th. Then it should go to council for introduction on the 4th of September. And passage, adoption by the 31st of October.
Okay, real quick, and this is obviously, you know me, you've known me 40 years, so I'm a nerd. Cities around the state are already scrambling, big and small. Are we hopeful at least for a frozen budget?
I believe that's what we're looking at, yeah.
Okay.
Zero budget, so.
Within that framework, are you looking at any priorities, at least moving some numbers, moving some deck chairs around?
Once we get into
Okay,
determining what our steadies are, like the utilities and where we're at with those and some of those essential billings, then we'll have to
okay,
look elsewhere, and personnel, of course.
okay. Last thing for me, gotta get this done here. Real quick, what's coming up we still have, tomorrow, we still have farmer's market. We have Fridays at the fort.
Yeah, I think the next Fridays the Ford isn't until the end of July.
Okay.
So, we have, again, Farmers Market, next, on the 20th, July 20th, on Sunday, they're having their backpack giveaway at Alexander
Right.
Park.
Right.
So, you'll see something on that with regards to, Facebook and our other social media, but
And to us old folks, Alexander Park is Charney Park. Always remember that. Showing my age there a little bit. Sorry about that, but I'm old. So there you have it. All right, I'll open up anybody else question.
The property tax changes, does that affect this coming year? Or we still pretty much the same?
Yeah, I'm not sure when if it goes into effect January, we're
For 27?
So confusing.
27,
I was thinking it was 20, yeah. it was
27,
not
so
next year, so our budget for next year should be similar, at least the amount of revenue should be similar to this year.
well, what we've been told to expect anywhere from a $500,000 to $2 million reduction in the 2026 budget.
Because of, you know.
I don't know. if
I
it's-
know you're not the
Yeah,
budget person, so
But that's, so we're all kind of on a new learning curve this year. But we'll go into it with a zero budget and then, of course.
in our size budget, that'd be a pretty big cut if it was $2 million.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm saying citywide.
Yeah, that's what I'm
20
saying, in
the
city,
27
even
million.
citywide, that's a
Yeah,
lot.
that's a big
That's a
cut.
big
Yeah.
cut.
Yeah. But those are just some preliminary numbers. The controller is leaving at the end of the month, so the city's using the services of Crow as our financial, so we'll be, and I'm not sure how that's going to work, but we'll be meeting with those representatives from Crow to actually do the budget, and they'll do the input of the budget.
Eric, speaking of finances, are the guys going to get their raise that they were promised in July?
I'm certainly trying, Helen.
know.
We're lobbying everyone we can, so we're still trying.
Because as far as you know, the money's still there.
It is.
It was, the mayor
appropriate.
put it in the budget.
It was
Council
appropriate.
passed it, it's still there.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Eric?
Yeah, I do.
Feel free.
Back to the 4th of July, there were some complaints about the end of the day, and it didn't have anything to do with the park department. Is that-
Uh-huh.
Did it? I mean, you know,
The shutting down, the vendors and everything,
Yeah.
it was advertised to 11,
'Cause-
and they were closed them down early.
and one of our best volunteers was one who was very critical about that.
Okay.
I just want to make it clear, we're not responsible.
No, it wasn't the
us.
Parks Department, of course. And I think in an effort to get people out of the park, as they did last year, they probably should have told the vendors and others that, your stop time was at 10 o'clock instead of 11 o'clock. It was advertised at 11 o'clock. But
Okay.
I heard the fireworks and everything went on past 10.
it did.
I
yeah.
didn't, I wasn't there.
Yeah, the fireworks started at 10, went to about 10:30 probably, so. By the time they got everybody out of the park, it was 11:30 or so.
Having a good time. They were tired of being stuck in the house, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, but yeah, I think our advertising needs to be
Accurate.
accurate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was wondering exactly how
Yeah.
that came about.
Right.
'Cause-
I've taken a couple dozen emails on that,
Yeah, I figured you.
if you say you're gonna close at 9:30 or 8:30 or 10, I think people embrace it, but when you go totally different time, folks are caught off guard.
We should
And
be on the same page, I think.
yeah, and I mean, I support, law enforcement. I get where they're coming from. But when you have fourth meetings and say, hey, we're going to do this thing, and then suddenly in the middle of the stream, you say, you end up doing another thing. A, you're going to run people off who don't want to come back.
Yeah.
And hurt feelings. Like I said, Lawrence, 4th of July is not Zionsville, Carmel, Fisher, 4th. We're unique because we're, as corny as it sounds, We are as welcoming of a community as you're gonna find.
Yeah.
Black, white, green, orange, I don't give a rat's. And I think we need to maintain that reputation. Our schools do it. We don't need to get in battles that we don't need to fight.
Loggers in Lawrence, I'd still like to see us get an agreement with, facility use agreement. I know the Board of Works passed the contract.
Okay.
Which I don't think was very, financially beneficial, but I still think we need, if they're gonna use the park, then they ought to have it, I'd vote for it. I mean.
Oh, yeah, I'm
the
not,
problem
same here. Because it's,
the event, and my problem is, I don't want to set a precedent for using a park without having an agreement.
without an
That's my
agreement.
only concern.
and the labor for that is 90% Parks Department?
We do the stage, but that's all we don't.
The fencing,
Well, yeah.
picking
well,
up emptying the
fencing.
trash cans, or making sure, putting the bags out,
Utilities
making
out.
sure it's clean?
Yeah, we do a lot.
So about 90% of the labor
Yeah,
falls
yeah,
on this
yeah, so-
department.
But other than the labor part of it, it's not out of our budget, is that correct?
No, nothing,
Okay.
no.
Okay, because it's $10,000 plus 2 security people.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty good-sized
Yeah,
expense.
we're already a bunch of khaki-wearing church mice running around here.
Okay, now back to the perennial question about the parking lot at Community Park.
Yeah, I was gonna ask
Okay,
you that.
at the Stormwater Board, they said the only money for stormwater was paying was the stormwater part. That the paving part was coming out of, well, it's kind of confusing, because they said streets and parks, and then later on they said just parks. But we don't have the money to pay for that, do we?
Not that I'm aware of, Tom, so I will.
I'm aware
So
of
this
it
is at the stormwater
Yeah,
board
the
meeting? Okay, I'll
Stormwater
look that
Advisory
up.
Board, this is in June.
And the
So-
follow-up on that, besides, the shutting down early of vendors and the like, I think that just caused more hurt feelings than anything, but the chronic comments I continue to get long-term, especially after the 4th, if you have everybody there, was, what a great day, the park looked great, people are smiling, why is our parking lot the way it is? And yeah, I know it's a parking lot, we're talking about asphalt, but, the old saying, pig, lipstick, I think that's the stage we have
did kind
entered.
of smooth it out a little bit.
Yes.
That was better than what it was at one time, so.
Yeah.
But, we need to look into that, because somebody's done have their story straight.
Yeah. Unless it's in the bond funds that were passed last year, I don't
I
know.
didn't hear anything about that.
I don't know what the reserves are on that.
Maybe I missed something.
Yeah.
But,
That was the same bond funds that bought our trucks and our
Yeah.
utility gators this year, so
but I think most of that money's been spent.
I
That's the way I understand it.
think so, Tom,
I
but
think that would, there may not even be enough. Do you remember what the cost was for that?
well,
I
the
don't-
bid cost with all the construction was right at $1 million.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But the stormwater board, or street department has looked at the design work, and they have a quote for that, to do that, and I think that's less than $200,000, maybe like $150 to do all the stormwater work, and then I've looked at paving, we should be able to do it for about $400,000,
400,000, yeah.
so.
Now, it's Jimmy or street department, are they gonna do any work, the ditch here, is any work gonna be done this year?
Well, he's got funds to actually work on the ditch from 56th Street up to the park.
Right.
That Lawrence Creek ditch, he's gonna
Right.
work on that. But I'm not sure where they are as far as,
Now, do we plan, are they planning to do that in-house?
no, that's a Poindexter.
Okay, like I said, I wasn't sure, and I didn't, like I said, I said, Jimmy, you get used to folks, and that was the easy question to ask, okay, it comes not out of our budget to initiate that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Anything else, Ms. Helen, Mr. Robert? Eric, you got anything you like to?
Just real quickly. Jeff and I have a meeting with Councilman Mazur again on Friday to discuss the $143,000. When we went to the meeting last week, we had to kind of regroup to look at only capital expenditures, so we're meeting again with her on Friday.
And it really narrowed the scope. It has to be capital, not maintenance.
Who says it's gotta be capital? Is
That's the,
The ARP, because it's ARPA money, if you read the statute, it has to be, it has to be strictly capital. I'll give you an example, Grassy Creek Park, that Indianapolis, it's now their largest play park they have in their system. That money was roughly 40 million or so from Eli Lilly Foundation, and then 10 or 12 million dollars was ARP money. And when I dug down a little bit on it, it was, that money was, you're talking about being tightly controlled. It was for the addition of new playground installment, the installment of new paved trails there, so it's very specific in what it can be used for.
Well, it's what I mean, I looked at it a little bit, and of course, I don't understand all this stuff, but, it looked to me like there was some flexibility there about not, you can't do strictly maintenance kind of things.
Right.
But, there's a little flexibility on what's classified as maintenance and what's classified as capital. Am I wrong there?
well, and, yeah, I think there's, I think if it's a contractor has to come in and do it, then that's
Capital.
capital. If
Okay.
you can do it yourself, that's maintenance.
Okay.
Some of these things, I see a need for all of it, but,
Well, like, I did think one example, and this may not be where we want to spend the money, but at Veterans Park, making the walkways
handicap,
accessible.
ADA accessible, yeah, that was.
I mean,
that-
it would be, could be maintenance, I guess, but if you're gonna pave it, I don't
Well,
think we can do
paving,
that.
I would think paving would be a capital expense.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I agree, I've said this for years, that's a lawsuit, black eye, just dying to happen out there at Veterans Park with how far, especially the little guys' fields are from the parking lot. I mean, that is to me, it's an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, but that's the kind of, where it's not clear to me what's what,
Yeah.
But,
Well, that's something we'll certainly ask
Could they-
Councilwoman Missouri
well,
about.
even the walkways in Community Park
Yeah.
aren't in very good shape.
Yeah,
Yep.
So that would be a possibility, something that sooner or later it's gonna have to get done.
And I'd rather we control it instead of waiting till someone, us having to react to it instead of being preventative.
Yep. That could eat up pretty much
yeah.
money.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much. Yeah, I've got some quotes on that. Again, the quotes are 3 years old, so, but they're fairly accurate. It was, I'll have to pull those numbers up and look at them, but I'll do that
Do
before
you,
Friday.
do you know, now, this is not maybe in your purview, but do you know how the deadline was December 31st, 2024 for obligating that money? Do you know how we're getting
I
around
don't
that?
know.
I thought it had to be not encumbered,
Well, obligated, I think is the word.
just obligated, but it didn't have to be
Obligated, meaning that
encumbered.
you gotta have a
And then they
contract or-
extended it out, I know, another 6-month period into 25.
Okay, I didn't see that part.
Yeah.
If that be the case, I guess
Yeah.
maybe they can get around it, but.
Yeah.
I
But
don't know.
I'd say if they're offering, we need to
Yeah,
take
yeah,
them up on their offer, so.
I'll take the money, I just don't have to pay it back.
Yeah.
Yes,
And I know we talked about playground at
community.
Community Park.
Yeah,
additional,
that's a good one.
And then also the playground at 45th and Richard was one of the other
Good.
items that was cut out of the budget for 2025. So.
Those would be really good, we need more things for kids to do.
Yeah, yeah. So that was really all I had, Jeff, except I do have a facility use agreement for pickleball courts for the girls, Cathedral Girls Soccer. They're doing a fundraiser for program they're doing the fundraiser for. Crohn's and
Colitis.
Colitis Foundation. It's 3 hours, 4 hours, I'm sorry, 4 hours at $32 an hour for $128
I think,
on a Saturday evening.
good for them. Any
What's
questions?
the organization that's doing it?
Cathedral Soccer,
Cathedral
girls soccer,
But they're going to support the
Crohn's and colitis.
Crohn's and Colitis
Oh,
Foundation.
it's good, I mean, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, gonna say.
Just didn't hear who it was.
I have a motion on the floor, enter into agreement with Cathedral Ladies Soccer for a fundraising event on August 2nd for 4 hours use of pickleball courts out at Lee Road Park pursuant to, they pay us $128. Do I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, yeah, pretty hard to. You'll probably get a couple other requests. I've put this flyer out to a couple of groups at Lawrence North as fundraisers for their own programs and the like. So we may have more. Anything from the board? Eric, anything? Madam Council Lady? All right. Being none, my Orioles gave up a 4-run lead in the 9th last night. Let's see if they can hold on tonight.
Yeah, they're coming back.
Yeah, so's Elvis. So there you go. That being said, we're adjourned.